Okay, so April 10th, 1958. This is what Bruno Groening was speaking at that time. I ask you, friends, how would it be possible for you to teach your neighbor? Of course, this works only if you yourself are convinced of what you teach. Only speak out of conviction. Too often, I hear the word opinion. I told you this at our last community hour, and at the one before that, and the one before that. I told you this. I am the only person on the earth that has no opinion. I am the only person on the earth that has no opinion. I have no opinion. I only have a conviction. With the word opinion, people only soothe and calm themselves. Everyone can put forth his or her opinion. They can say, in my opinion, this, that, or the other is right. In my opinion, we should try this, that, or the other. In my opinion, it should be done in this way. In my opinion, he deserves a good thrashing. In my opinion, one should get him out and take him there. In my opinion, one should throw him into prison. In my opinion, he should be locked up permanently, and so on and so on. I'm sharing this because right now in the world, we have a lot of opinions. A lot. And who is it that you believe? That's why I'm a big proponent on trusting your inner guidance. So he goes on, with all this, dear friends, with all this opinion, with all the many, many opinions, with the sum of opinions all people everywhere, we witness the greatest misfortune ever to have affected mankind. With this, great harm has been done. You will never be in a position to assess another human being. Never be in a position to assess another human being. And because people have not conviction, they have to condemn the other person. Isn't that what everyone's doing? Everyone's pointing a finger at someone else, and three are always pointing back at you, right? And opinions. So let's work on here. If we all just spent time working on ourselves, what a different world it would be. So he's saying this back in 1958, before the information age, that we're already inundated with opinions, okay? Who gives them the right to condemn the person next to them? I think Jesus said, thou shalt not judge, right? Teachings have been around for the ages. Rather, they have the right and even the obligation to condemn themselves. If they had gathered insights, if they had convinced themselves of many things, they would have to say to themselves, shame on me. Oh my gosh, shame on me. Have I had to go through that shaming route and clear how much shame, guilt, stuff, blame, judgment, the things that I've done, getting rid of them and coming to peace with them, and then being a whole different person. It takes a lot of effort and work, but it is worth it. I have recently also met people who are, as you would say, big celebrities. Remember, this is back in the 50s. He's talking about big celebrities. Amazingly, they said, yes, I call myself to order every day. Each day I count for all my deeds. But not only these people do this, I have also met people belonging to the poorest of the poor who do the same. But they are few, very few. I can count them on very few fingers. So very few people actually call themselves to order every day. Only very few people are willing to create order in themselves and hold themselves accountable for their deeds. And only few rebuke themselves instead of rebuking their neighbor. I lost my, okay. In the evening, they say to themselves, yes, how could you have talked so negatively about that woman, the man, about that family? And how could you have presented the circle of friends so negatively to the other people? How could you have this or that? How could you have done that? That was mean. I will never go out and make up for it. I will have to go and make up for it. That is the sense of rebuking yourself at the end of the day, is realizing you come to terms and you say, okay, I will do it differently tomorrow, right? Very few people do this. More people do it now, okay, than back then, because there's been this great awakening happening for a lot of us. Very few people do this. I don't even dare to ask who of you has been like this. You see, dear friends, it's easy to condemn a person. Most people are forced to condemn their neighbor because they are unable to assess him. This is what is missing. They have no conviction. They do not have the necessary knowledge, and they are really incapable of bringing clarity to others. They know nothing. One says this and the other says that. And imagine right now we're in this time in the world where we're looking to other people in so-called powers of positioning, politicians, doctors, scientists, to decide what's best for us based on their opinion. Even this, assuming I ask 3 friends of the circle of friends. So these are people in the circle of friends that seem to think that they are more convicted of than others, right? Haven't you found that too in religious organizations or other communities? People start to have what they believe are convictions, but are really sometimes very strong opinions. So even this, so ask 3 friends and 2 people outside of the community who both ask a question that each of the 3 friends would give different information. Okay, so 2 people asked from outside the community, asked 3 people about the circle of friends. Each person is going to give a different answer. This is one of the reasons that well, that's a whole other story. I'll do that one later. I then call the people who have asked the question to the friends of the circle of friends. Oh goodness, they have been told just that's not how it is. Well, this makes our work very difficult, and the purpose of our meetings is defeated. Think of our judicial system. It's all based on, it's supposed to be about telling the truth, but you're basically listening to other people's perceptions of what happened. And that's what he's saying. Each of us has a different experience in that experience, and from that experience, we're talking, but it's really our opinion based on the perception, which is the filter that we're wearing. Okay, the only reason for this is that most people don't know why we hold these community hours. They haven't perceived everything. They weren't really serious about it, and they haven't recognized it as the holiest. But because of the good, because the good belongs to them, they should have known. I know that too. People come to community hour, they know they're supposed to absorb the healing streams, and yet they come with this set of baggage. That's one of the reasons I developed the health transformation course, one of the reasons I was guided to. So I could be with people every day on video and audio to sort of help them through that process, because it really is a letting go of so many beliefs and ideas that we've had about our world that we have held on dearly, that these are strong opinions. And when you get convinced of an entirely different world, an entirely different truth, it is an amazing, because health is restored. That's where you know that you have order, is you have health and vitality. But because people have taken in the word attempt to such an extent, it has become a power, the power of habit for them, right? I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to work on it. Have you heard those things out there? People are, I'm in the process. There's do or not do, as Yoda would say. Bruno would say, when you know it, you do it. So that's why you hear me talk about health. You hear me talk about vitality, because that's the vision. Other people in the world are experiencing something entirely different, because that's their realm of possibility. Mine is the whole world is healing from the inside out. So, but because people have taken in the word attempt, right, in that they continue to live like that, they actually believe that they can obtain much of the good serendipitously by making attempts. Well, they think they should just try it. No, friends, you must already be well aware that I, for my part, do not try to do anything, nor do the closest friends who have already grown in conviction. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing their best to keep you from making attempts. Instead, they are simply stating their conviction. That's what I say. Health, health, health. It's conviction. Instead, they're simply stating their conviction. They tell me, I am convinced about this. Should this little word opinion happen to slip in out of their mouth, we will ignore it. After all, it's still there inside the person. But if you ask yourself, now, I must start by saying that you are also aware of this. It is so strange in the circle of friends, so weird that one is not allowed to talk about the evil. That's a common thing. People, why talk about evil? When Bruno talked about evil, remember this after Second World War? That was pretty an evil situation. He's talking about dis-ease, disorder, sickness, okay? That is what you call sickness. That's his next thing. So what you calling, why can't we talk about the evil, which is often called sickness? One is not allowed to talk about that at the circle of friends, and never to talk about it as they approach Bruno Groening with this subject. And I would really like to say, because it is for the good, to let him know. We want to let him know what is wrong with me so he can treat my disease, which is so against everything that he was there for. Okay? Yes, people live believing this. They believe that they have to mention it again and again. Otherwise, they can't be happy. They think it isn't possible any other way, right? When that's the norm, okay? The norm is you're always talking about your disease, you're defining yourself by your disease, you're saying, this is my disease, I've had it for so long, it's in my head, it's in my ancestry, the doctor says this is what I'm gonna be on this medication, you know, blah, 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 okay? That's what's normal. It's not natural. So we never talk about what other people think is normal, because it's opposite to natural. So otherwise, they can't be happy. They think it isn't possible any other way. However, a person couldn't do anything more stupid. But there you have it, the force of habit. Yes, habit keeps us stuck. Because when he talks about it, or even when he doesn't talk about it, but nevertheless is receiving these sick thoughts, he passes them onto his body. Then indeed it will be disturbed, and then it will be sick. The more you think about what your situation is that you say you want to get rid of, the more it comes about. So for me, looking at this situation in 2020, if people really were focused on health, the conversation in the media and would be completely different. Completely different. You can talk yourself into a lot of evil, quite a lot. Or, as also happens in life, people have talked their neighbor and those close to them into evil, so that they, being ignorant, partially started to believe this. After hearing this repeatedly, they finally believed it. This actually weakened the body. Their bodies fell into disorder. It's quite easy to explain. I heard the other day someone said, well, if you went on Google and you asked about a symptom, within about 3 different posts, you could find out that you could be dying. And in a sense, that's what can happen when we start sharing with a neighbor and you talk about a pain or an ache or a thing, and they go, oh, so-and-so had this. Did you know that? Oh, you know what? And everybody thinks that's normal. That's the habit. It's like right now, in 2020, if you cough, it's like, oh my gosh, what does that mean? A cough used to just be a cough, okay? Oh, I'm tired used to be I'm just tired. And now you've got the whole communities rallying around, talking a conversation that has become normal. It's a habit and it's a pattern, and it's the farthest thing from what is natural. On the other hand, I must ask the question, do we want only to talk about what you already perceive as evil? And do we want to treat the evil? Well, you already know, you say no. You are right. No, you know this. But we also have to inform these people, our neighbors, who don't know this yet. We have to ask them the question, the same question. See, people's opinions are you want to talk about it, right? And when you're convinced and you realize the difference in your own body, your own mind, your own life, when you talk about the direction that you want, health, love, joy, peace, freedom, it's a different conversation, and it is way more contagious. It's infectious. And that's why, as I'm convicted, I can pass on this healing in the sense because I'm in the vibe. And that's why other people go, well, I've done so much other energy work with other people. Why is it different with you? Because source energy that came through Bruno Groening that comes through here is completely different vibe, completely different because it's convicted. So now, dear friends, people who lived believing that things had to be a certain way were wrong. Illness will not be treated here. Illness will not be treated here. We don't talk about illness. There are enough doctors around whom you can make yourself, whom you can make your body available to. I know that many people are fed up and that many say, I just don't trust them anymore. And they also don't believe anymore. And that is right. You shouldn't be here if you only want to make an attempt. If I were only to try to help you, I wouldn't be able to help you. I wouldn't be able to help anyone. That's why, dear friends, we use the word ask. I've had people come to me and that's it. They want to try to get better. And I know it's like, I do my best to break down that issue of trying, you know, in the sense of getting them to realize that that is holding them back from receiving. Yet they're still so very much attached to it because it meets some sort of need for them to stay safe in their illness, their disorder, their stress in their life, they're struggling. So you shouldn't be here if you only want to make an attempt. I'm going to say this again. If I were only to try and help you, I wouldn't be able to help you. I wouldn't be able to help anyone. That, dear friends, is why we use the word ask. I now ask you to follow the good path. I ask you to take in the good again, in that you break away from the evil. Put an end to the evil, which you call illness, which you also experience as illness, which is often painful, and stop concerning yourself with it. And I ask you to unite with him to whom you belong, God, source, consciousness. That's where you belong. This idea, and in that presence, there is only healing. There's only health. There's only order. There's only doing. You're convinced. It's a whole other world. Why I say it's your best whole new world. Why I say trust your inner guidance. I use different words to reach out to those people that get hooked on God, on Jesus, on you know, even if it's higher power, they want to talk science, I'll talk that. Okay? Inner guidance. Everybody has one. We belong to God. No, not the other way around. God does not belong to us. We belong to God. The union has to take place first. You must first have the connection. You also need to know how to conduct yourself. And you need to know, if you really want to take this path, you must forever break all ties to what you have experienced as evil and never be afraid. That is like turnaround. Talk about it. When I do a breakthrough, a heart reset, I call it, clearing the mind viruses, getting people present to the things that they were believing, things that they were habits that they were forming, and they clear them out and they receive the source divine energy with me, the healing streams. They have a turnaround. Now, if you keep in that groove, you keep moving more closer and closer to the depths of this great conviction. If you like gas up your car, kind of have this recharge reset, and then you never get gas again. If you never stay and have your oil changed, your car breaks down. If you never stay tuned in and charged into this conversation, you go back to the habits and the neighbors and the patterns and the people that will tell you otherwise, you will wear down again because you have fallen back to the other side. So connection is one thing. Connection is a space, and then keeping it fully charged to be present, to have the courage and conviction to stay forward. That's why even in the circle of friends, he was saying that you could ask 3 different people and there would be 3 different answers. And there's only very few that end up being convinced, and when we're convinced, we pass it on. Okay, Do only the right thing for yourself and your body so that you can learn from this. Then you will be able to convince your neighbor. And that is the truth, how you felt and how the evil disappeared from your body and how the disorder, which has been in your body for years, has now turned into order. This depends entirely on your own will. God has given this to everyone. It's given this to everyone, but it's dependent on you. And how committed are you? Are you really committed to yourself, to God, to doing what is coming through you to have complete order? Or is it necessary for you to still feel like you're part of the normal crowd? And then, okay, so God does not deny people their free will. It's a kicker, free will. You got choice in every single moment. Man lives between good and evil. He alone decides where he feels drawn to and where he will go. Woe to him who does not yet know what is right and still lets himself be enticed and tempted by the evil side. He will not detach himself from the evil until he has come to realize that he has ended up on the evil side. People wonder right now why there's such a split going on, let's just say in the United States right now, because there's two sides of the story. I'm not saying that one side is right and one side is wrong. I'm saying it's representative of this is choice time in the world. Each of us has the ability to choose in our own minds what is true for us. And if we stop making the other person wrong, even our politicians wrong, and our scientists wrong, and the pharmaceutical industry wrong, and we look for unity, and we look for serving what's best for everybody, then we know that the best thing to do is to trust our inner guidance and play our part in the overall transformation and put all our attention here. Because when we come to order, when I come to order, I affect others, and that affects the whole. It's like when you start to have healing in your body, it spreads. And that's what's going on in the world. There's millions of people all around the world that are in this space that we're activating and we're empowering and we're shifting. And in the meanwhile, a lot of pus is coming up. A lot of detoxing is going on. That's the best way I can describe it. Okay. And then suddenly, take notice, and someone comes and leads him away from the evil side. He doesn't know how to get away from it. He doesn't even know how to get into it, how he got into it. Then he will be grateful. Of course, he must follow him because this person tells him the truth, because he leads him to the path from which he has strayed. And those that recognize the truth are activated and follow. And those that notice the light, but still, you know what, are more comfortable in so-called the darkness, will keep sailing their boat away. But because he has experienced so much evil, especially in his own body, he will be careful not to surrender to evil again. He will become very alert. He will be aware of himself and of his body, making sure that he can't be harmed again. But he will do everything to ensure that evil can't get to him anymore, especially that it doesn't enter him, because if it did, it would be debasing his body. For this reason, evil also exists here. For this reason, God has let evil remain. And so we, that is you, dear friends, can recognize God. How precise, how righteous, and you get to decide. So even for myself, it's like turning around, and then you still get confronted with things in this moment that says, "Ooh, this looks really good." It's like, buffet table. Ooh, looks really good. Should I go for that? And sometimes you start to go for that, and then you realize, that didn't make my stomach feel so good. That's the idea, is you get so fine-tuned in your conviction that the slightest little temptations you start to recognize. And this is why right now there is such a difference in some cases about what's going on, because those of us that have started down this path that can see quite clearly a completely different world, it's completely different than what other people see as normal, because they've yet to open up and see that world. So I could never have see the world I have now when my head was like this and I was so sick, diseased, disordered, mentally, physically, you name it, because this is what I thought the disease and disorder was normal. And so I thought normal was natural, but normal was just the habits and everything that I've been trained. And so the systems and structures of the world are coming down. They're all coming down. And that's all you're seeing. You're seeing this white colonialism. You're seeing Black Lives Matter. You see Indigenous Lives Matter. You're seeing how people are being treated inappropriately. The discrepancies in income, illnesses, disease, everything, religion. All this stuff is an awakening, and the awakening comes back to here. What do you believe? Are you still following what someone else is telling you? Or are you following your inner guidance? Are you pointed to the direction of health, vitality? Is that all you're talking about? Or you're in amongst waiting for someone else to come rescue you? So Bruno Groening, his words, his life, if you have yet to even look at the documentary film, do yourself a favor, go watch it, 3-part series. People have been healed just watching it. His words and his life demonstrate what has been going on in the world for the last 50, 60 years. He's showing us issues in the medical system. He's showing us issues in the judicial system. He's shown us issues with habits and patterns that we think are normal. And even the new normal isn't going to cut it. So that's the conversation today. If you want to reach out and talk more, then just, message me. And if you're looking for health transformation, you need some one-on-one support, let me know, and we'll get started. Mwah! Lots of love.